audio. Okay, there we are. We're good.
Hey everybody, welcome to Does It Get Better? I'm your host, Neil Rubenstein is my other host.
Rich.
My other host?
My
This is
your
your other host. Go ahead, what?
Our
Sorry.
host? My name's Rich.
I'm one of your hosts.
Well,
What's your name?
Rich.
Rich. Hey guys, this is a mental health podcast. Everyone deals with depression, different levels of it, especially right now. And Rich and I thought it was a good idea to maybe share some of our thoughts on it, maybe help people cope dealing with their own issues. I know it helps me to hear other people complain.
Yeah, me too.
So, just how do you cope with what you're going through? And we'll talk about what we're going through, and maybe it helps you a little bit. Today's episode is about viral videos and how some lady is a recipe stealing ass bitch.
Caroline. That's her name.
It's her name, Caroline?
But you got to keep her name out your stupid mouth.
Oh, yeah, keep her name out your mouth. Out your stupid mouth. Out your lying ass mouth.
Oh, man.
What's today? Today's avoidance.
Yeah.
Well, I was just avoiding.
You were avoiding it.
I was just avoiding.
From the jump.
Dude, I am so good at podcasting. I would like to say that yeah, go ahead. Let's talk about avoidance. I'm doing it. I'm killing it. Because you know what, man? This pod sometimes feels like therapy, always feels like therapy for me. And so sometimes like, I don't want to do it. Like I want to talk to my buddy Rich, but I don't want to like be sad and talk about sad. Like I'm not sad this morning. Like yesterday I was miserable. Yesterday would have been a great day for us to talk.
Would it really have been? Because if you're miserable, don't you?
I was.
You talk. You communicate better when you're even more in it.
Well, I feel like, not that I communicate better, but like, I don't mind when I'm down. Can get lower. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, let's talk about miserable shit. Let's go.
Yep.
But when I'm up, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to switch over. Like, I'm being manic right now. Like, let's throw a party.
Let's go. Yeah. And just pile it on, right?
Yeah. But then like yesterday, like the shower chair breaks under my massive weight, and I think I'm going to re-injure my leg, and and then I'm just like crying on the toilet bowl naked with soap all over my body, and I'm like, I'm a burden to the world. I should end it.
I shouldn't be laughing, but I just can't help it. This is a comedy podcast after all, so.
This is a what?
A comedy podcast, so I'm allowed to laugh.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But you feel better today?
They regret having us on. I'll tell you that, boy. when they offered us the slot, they did not expect just two grown men crying for 45 minutes. That first day there was like a guy commenting who was like, "This isn't funny."
You just don't get the joke, buddy. You just don't get the joke.
It's dark. It's alt.
Well, yeah. So
tell me about avoidance, Rich.
All right. Well, I came up with the topic when you asked. You were like, "What are we going to talk about?" And it's funny too. I kind of put it out in the universe. I knew the text was coming. Like, oh, what are we talking about tomorrow? Because it was Sunday night, and I couldn't believe it was already Sunday. Again, avoiding the fact that the weeks are going by so quickly. But
I wish they were going by quickly, buddy. We're having 2 different weeks.
But I was like thinking a little bit more about the past the past year, and the things that I was doing while like the first, because we're coming up quickly on a year of stay inside. This is going to be over in a couple weeks. Remember March 15th we were talking. So it's kind of reflecting on the year and my behavior, and like the things that I was going through were getting worse and worse as March, April, May kind of went on, and these things were like in my head every day of like, I'm sad, I'm trapped, I'm lonely, I'm worthless, I'm useless, I'm never going to do anything, like all these negative thoughts. But now what do you want to do? Like you, for me, when I was thinking about this stuff, I wanted to not think about it. So how do I not think about it? Well, let's see. Eat a whole bunch of food for no reason. All right. There's one thing. I'm going to do that. I'm just going to eat a whole bunch of food.
Already doing it.
Take my thoughts away from something. So, video game. I play Magic, and I was streaming a lot on Twitch. As you know, I was doing that, and I was avoiding my reality by. Go ahead.
Can I just? I'm gonna interrupt you.
Yeah.
Because I'm in that mood.
Great. Here we go.
I remember watching one of your Twitches and being like, what the hell is going on? Like, if you don't know Magic the Gathering,
Yeah.
It's like, not only does it not make, like, you don't even know, like, I didn't even know what the things that were happening were. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh, I play D&D, like, I'll get it.
Right.
Nope. I was like, wait, what? Who's even going?
It's definitely a different world to if you jump in and you just like, oh, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna play Magic on Twitch. Take a look.
Well, I'm texting you. I'm like, explain what's going on. And you start explaining. I'm like, this doesn't help at all.
It's just more confused.
I could be watching Candy Crush for all I know. Like, it was so gross. Like, all right. Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, it is definitely, definitely a niche audience for that. But I was putting a lot of time in doing that because I didn't have anything else to do. And I wasn't, was unemployed, and I was actually doing well with that because and people don't know what like Twitch is, online streaming platform where you can play games and people watch you, and they when you should get to a certain level of, you do it enough and you get enough followers and you get enough people who watch you on a consistent basis, you level up to what's called an affiliate, and then that's when you can start making money from it. And people can donate $5 a month, and it just kind of keeps you going. It's kind of like it's a recurring encouragement. Yeah. So
like a Patreon.
Exactly. So I was getting into that, and
by the way, hit me up on Patreon if anyone wants to see more content. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
It's all right. What I was basically. I was doing that a lot, and it's fine. It was like a hobby. It's like it's fine, but I realized that a lot of the things that I was like kind of pushing back while I was like playing Magic or like trying to write music or whatever, I would get frustrated way easier doing these other things I was avoiding, or doing these things I was trying to avoid other stuff. And it was just compounding in a way where I just kind of hated doing anything because, like, I play Magic and I lose, I get mad. I write a song and it sucks, I get mad.
But even if it's good, it sucks.
Right, exactly.
The craziest, like, just no confidence in your own art. Like, my abilities, my artistic and creative endeavors has floated me through my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's gotta be at some point in my life, my brain has to be like, dude, you made it this long.
Right.
Like, you'll be fine. Like, be confident in the art you're creating. Like, you're gonna be fine. But when you get in that place, when you're in that like hole, it's just like, no, this all sucks. You're like ripping up brilliant stuff or throwing out things that are like, no, it's great. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And then and then when you come out, like, for me, like, when you start to crawl out of it a little bit, a great tactic for the depression to like pull you back in is like, dude, you threw away so much cool stuff.
Oh,
like,
man, yeah.
Like, why did you do that? And it's just like, you just like crawl back in that hole. It's so dark in there, like.
Yep.
oh, like even when you're winning, even when you're writing great stuff, like even when, like you can't celebrate for a second.
None
It's
of
just
it
like,
none of it matters.
oh,
None of it is good. None of it, everybody thinks it sucks. Why do you even, yeah, it's this vicious
dude,
cycle.
2 million views on a video, and it's like, yeah, but I'm not in the video. Like, wait, so what? All right, like you can't celebrate a victory for a second.
Right.
Oh, it's brutal.
And it is, and it's a vicious circle, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what, like, the avoidance factor that I was thinking about, is because then I just stopped wanting to do them all anything. Then I just wanted to stop doing anything altogether, because, like you just said, it's like you just want to go back in your hole because it's safe there. It's like it's the avoidance hole. It's your little cave. It's like, if I don't do anything, I can't have anything bad to happen to me out there. I've already done all these other bad things, so I'm already dealing with that. So let me just sit in my cave, be miserable about it, and not bother anybody else. And that's like the avoidance. That's the don't tell anybody what's going on. Don't be honest about your feelings because you don't want to burden anybody. Don't try to get help, because if you get help, then that means you recognize you have a problem. And then if you have a problem, then you're going to be a burden. It's like this unraveling of these crazy thoughts. But in the end, for me, not in the end, I'm constantly and always will be going through a healing process and getting better from where I was. But like, I avoided things left and right, just like, yeah, I'm self-harming, but I'm not going to tell anybody, and I'm just going to keep doing it because it makes me feel better. I'm haven't told anybody about any of my problems because I don't want to burden anybody, so I'm going to avoid that one. I should get some therapy. No, you know what? I'm not going to, because that's embarrassing, so I'm going to avoid that one. I should work out a little bit because you're gaining weight because all you do is eat. I'm going to avoid that one because being on a diet's impossible. You can't do it. But in the end, when you sort of like parse out the thing, you have to deal with like certain things one at a time. Like the self-harm thing I had to really tackle right away, because that's physically and mentally like the culmination of like the worst possible outcome for me in the situation I was in. And I was avoiding getting help for so long. Yeah, I had a therapist. I have a therapist, and he was wonderful, but there was still a level there I wasn't completely honest about everything, right? Like I'd still, at the darkest moments, I'd be sitting in my house and it'd be just one of those times where I got upset or frustrated or whatever that I couldn't get out fully when I was in my therapy sessions, because I would avoid, like, you kind of like what you say about being in therapy, like, so how does that make you feel? And you're just like, come on, like, and I avoided a couple key conversations with the professionals that I was in with, and it got.
Oh, you're making me feel weird. That's how that makes me feel. Makes me feel weird that you're talking to me like that.
This feels really strange. Like, stop. So I point being, and to talk about, is I feel like I avoided a lot of important conversations and a lot of steps for longer than I should have, and then got to the point of being like, hello, psychiatric hospital, yes, I need to come to you. You know what I mean? Like, that shouldn't have happened. And that was because I was in a frame of mind where I didn't want to have any of these conversations with anybody. So I avoided it. And I avoided, talking to the people that was closest to me, my friends, my loved ones, my animals. Like every single thing around me was just like not clued in as to how bad I was feeling. But now that I going to the CBT program, the cognitive behavioral therapy program, for a week was the key to sort of unlocking like the ability to talk about things and work through them. Now, my situation's unique, and mine is not, like everybody's. So I don't expect everybody to kind of relate 100% to what I'm getting at. But I now recognize, as I was thinking back, excuse me, is that I recognize that I avoided a lot of things. You don't see it while you're doing it. You don't know it when you're doing it because your brain is just everywhere, and you're like nothing makes sense anymore when you're so deep in this like internal mental illness. But now here we are, this much time later, and I'm like, man. And I think that people will find a pattern too when I talk is that like I do reflect back on the past and be like, I blame myself for a lot of things over and over and over again. And it's fine because a lot of things are my fault and a lot of things I did with no one else had a bearing on my actions or my feelings but myself. But I feel like it makes me feel a little bit better to just like admit fault, apologize to the universe, and kind of give my thoughts back on the whole situation in hopes that can help somebody that might be in this situation where they're like one conversation away from maybe taking a positive step rather than taking a step backwards by keeping things, by avoiding a conversation. So there's a lot of hard things to do when you're in a mental state of like not knowing how to communicate and all that stuff. So, yeah, I just, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, I wanted to talk about it because I don't know if you feel similar in the situations you're in and how you're feeling about like avoiding talking about something or getting into a conversation about something with someone or whatever. How you feeling?
I do it. I mean, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to talk about what happened in the comments section. What is this? Oh, there's no such thing as small. The lady said, we should work on building the audience. And my immediate response was like, who wants to watch? Like, who wants to watch this? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I'm such a loser. Like, this is garbage. Like, why? You know what I mean? Like, that's like always there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just always like even when I'm all right. So I'm not avoiding right now. That's a crazy thing that I have come to realize is that even when I'm not in the hole,
mm-hmm.
it still makes me feel like that I'm not good enough and I'm not, you know what I mean? Like even when I'm bragging,
mm-hmm.
even when I'm boasting, even when I'm getting compliments, I'm still like, I'm not worthy of that love or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I avoid that shit all the time. I don't want to talk about it ever.
Yeah.
Get a little choked up and I'm like, oh, let's talk about so and then like I'll make a joke about something, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'll be like, oh, nice, whatever, and get on with my life. And it's just yeah. I didn't really think of it. Like when you mentioned it yesterday, I was like, oh, I don't know anything about avoidance. You know what I mean? And then like as soon as I started thinking about it, I was like, oh no, my whole life is avoidance.
Yeah.
Like I've never fully dealt with my feelings towards my parents or towards my siblings,
mm-hmm.
or like how I grew up, or how the people and how other kids treated me in school, or you know what I mean? Like I never dealt with any of that shit. I just
Yep. As men should. You just push it away. Rub dirt in it, move on.
Yeah, rub some dirt in it, punch that dude in the mouth, like
yeah. That was a joke, by the way, to anyone who might think that was a serious. That was anybody who might think that was a serious reaction. No, that's the just push it down, rub some dirt in it, get on with it. And that's no.
That's what like everyone like. That's what you.
That's
get,
what you're expected.
Told,
that's
like,
what you're expected.
Up, like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, they're more being physical. Like when you get like, you know, you get a line drive to the rib.
Yeah.
Like,
rub some dirt in it.
Which is like really bad advice. Like if you get cut and you rub dirt in it, you're gonna get an infection and lose whatever part of the body that is. Like, why didn't we realize that? Like, why didn't someone step in and be like, "That's bad advice"? Medic, and then a medic came and just rubbed mud on you. You'd be like,
"Here you go, you're good." Even better than before.
Like, I don't think this is it. I don't feel good at all.
Well, in where you're at now, you're feeling a little bit better than you were a month ago, in my opinion of you, because you got your cast off, right?
Cast off, Percocet, Molly Percocet, cast on, F it, cast off. Cast is off. I'm in a cam boot.
Yep. The ramp wasn't too icy. You got into the appointment.
The ramp was not too icy. Yo. I was in a good mood for this, so it didn't affect me as much as it could have.
Mm-hmm.
So Kathleen drove me to the appointment,
mm-hmm.
and we have to get like the wheelchair. We have to get a wheelchair from inside because it's like a long distance, and we have to get the wide wheelchair because I'm a big fat guy. So it takes a little longer, but we called ahead and we got it done pretty efficiently. So she comes out with the wheelchair and we're parked, you know, we're not legally parked. We're parked like just like so I can get out closest to. I get in the wheelchair and she starts to push me and I'm like, why don't you go park the car? It's like it's a long flat parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like a little handicap ramp to get onto the curb, you know, just like the little cutout in the curb.
Yeah.
And then a long ramp up the stair because it's like whatever, like 15 stairs, so it's like a long ramp. So I know I can't get up that long ramp, but I figure I could, you know, get up the little handicap ramp and meet her over by the long ramp. So I'm like rolling myself through the parking lot, and it's like, dude, anyone in a wheelchair, like, kudos to you, man. Like, that's a lot of work.
It's physical.
So I'm like rolling through the parking lot. I'm like, this is exhausting. And then I get to that little ramp, and the incline is, what is that? 15%, 20% incline.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, dude! I got like 3 like V's up.
Yep.
And then just was like, nope, and just rolled back into the street. And I was in a good mood, so I was like, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I was just sitting in the street, like, just waiting.
just sitting and waiting in your wheelchair.
Alone in the street.
Yeah.
And like some like a security guard, off-duty security guard from the hospital was like walking by, and he's like, "You need a hand?" And I'm like, "No, I'll wait for my wife. It's fine." And he's like, "That's what I'm here for, man." He's like, "Let me help you." And I'm like, all right. And then he brought me all the way up, and I'm like, you know, thank you, little stranger. I'm helpless, and you cucked me. Like if I was like in a hole for that, oh my god, dude, that would have been.
That's the end of that was the end of the world right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Like thank God I knew the cast was coming off. You know, otherwise I would have been like, ooh. And then there was like a moment because they were like they're gonna take up the cast and then send me for X-rays, and then they decided to send me for X-rays first, and I was like, oh no, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's gonna come back and they're gonna be like, we're not taking it off.
Right,
it's not,
right.
but I was pretty. I was in a pretty. I was okay. I was pretty okay. So, but yeah, I'm not allowed to put weight on it still. 6 more weeks, and you know,
And now that if you can accept that, you accept that a little bit better than you did 6 weeks ago, right? And you're like, all right, well, I did 6 weeks, and now I just got another 6 weeks. Then I guess,
uh,
or not.
six
No.
weeks felt like an eternity, and I'm like, I can't. It, it got better the further I got into it because I could start seeing the finish line.
Right.
Yeah, like right now I can't see it, so I can't think it, like I can't think positively about it. But even then, you do your spiral. So
Mhm.
it's like, all right, well, when it gets, it's gonna get off. I'm gonna damage it before then, and it's gonna be
Right.
enough. And then, I have to go to physical therapy, and then that's gonna take too long because I'm too out of shape, and then my insurance isn't gonna cover it, and then I'm gonna have a limp the rest of my life, and everyone's gonna think I lost my toes to diabetes.
Jeez.
Because I'm fat, and it's like, well, I don't have diabetes, and now does that have to start every comedy set? Like, I don't have diabetes. It's like, hi, I'm Neil. I don't have diabetes.
Well, at least you got a new bit out of it, I guess. Then.
I
Right?
don't have any diabetes.
I don't have a new bit, and I also don't have diabetes. Leave me alone.
I don't have a new bit. I don't have diabetes. Diabetes.
Well, it seems to me like it. You're all right. This is what I'm hearing and how I'm interpreting what you just said, because it's kind of what we do, or what I do. And especially in terms of avoidance, is that when you got 6 weeks of your having the cast on and getting through a lot of stuff and feeling a certain way and feeling bad and feeling a little bit better and then hitting the finish line, you just kind of brought it full circle and you're like, all right, I'm back to the beginning. And when we've talked before, I've mentioned about like kind of those flagpole moments, put a pin in how I feel, like, all right, I got to this far, I feel good right now. Sure, there's more ahead, but I feel good now, so I don't want to lose that. It seems like you are more comfortable in giving into, like, all right, this is how I should feel bad, and I'm going to avoid trying to feel a certain way into the future, because that's a little bit harder than just kind of being like, all right, well, we're back to square one. I'm going to, bring it back to the beginning when I first had the cast on, and we're going to feel like that for these next 6 weeks. It kind of feels like you're a little bit more comfortable and resigning to the fact you're like, yeah, this sucks, and I'm just going to cycle through it another one. I could be off, but I wanted to kind of be upfront about kind of how I hear it.
Well, I don't. I'm definitely not as low as I was.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm definitely making progress as far as like mentally. You know what I mean?
Good,
Like, I'm
yeah,
still in a hole for sure. Like,
yeah, of course.
I still spiral like
Mm-hmm.
crazy spirals, but um, overall, I mean, I'm not nearly as doom and gloom. You know what I mean?
Well, that's good. Yeah.
I'm more Fu Manchu than I am the sword. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Um, I guess that's not. I'm more Fu Manchu than I am 16.
Okay. Like 16.
Better.
16 is really
It's more
negative. Yeah.
like like
Yeah.
the light and dark side of it. Um, I don't know, man. Like, I hear you, and I definitely I find it easier to resign to uh, well, it'll be miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but not necessarily. I'll be miserable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that this is gonna suck. This is gonna be bad. Like, 6 weeks is gonna go so slow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then, like, I'm like, oh, today's Monday. Like, that's almost a week. It's like, all right, 5 more of these. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've all been in that weird COVID time warp where some people think things are moving really slow. I feel like things are moving super fast. So,
No, it's both, dude. It's simultaneously both.
yeah.
It's so crazy. Like I saw, like, because I only communicate in memes because I'm a meme lord now. Um, it was so funny, dude. I had like some comedian buddies over yesterday for like a little like a writing session, but really we were just bullshitting for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and we like, I mentioned like another meme account guy who like I pal around with now, and they were like, is there like a meme world? And I'm like, yeah, like now I know the other meme guys, and we're all like, the other meme guys on my. It's like comedy, like all the meme guys that are on my level that have around the same followers. Like we all promote each other's stuff and big up each other in our comment section.
Right.
And, like, you know what I mean? It's so
That's
funny.
so wild.
But I saw one of the memes earlier in the thing, and it was like, it feels both like we've been doing this for 5 years and it's only been 6 seconds.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's both. Like it just, time's moving so fast and so slowly at the same time. It's
taxing. It's so mentally taxing on everybody, and especially if you feel it. If you're feeling it that way, I definitely understand what you're saying. Like, there's days where I feel like it's just where your brain's at that day, and you have to look at something on the calendar, or you looked at something like, oh, when did that happen? Oh, wow, it was that long ago, or it was like, oh, it was only that long ago. Like, you have these moments of just like pure confusion as far as the way time's moving. It's like, I talk to my mom a lot more regularly now than I did pre-COVID. Like, we would talk like, every couple of weeks, via text message. We have a family group chat now, which is cool, but like actually talk on the phone. We talk every Sunday. We kind of took the tradition that my mom had with my grandfather. They would talk every Sunday night, and you
guys talk while you're making the gravy.
Well, we make gravy, yeah. So I call my mom on Sundays.
You gotta call me on Sunday. How you gotta call me while I'm making gravy?
I think my
got pig bones in my hands.
I think my grandfather called it gravy, but my grandmother called it sauce. I can't remember. I don't call it gravy though. I'm not one of those weirdo Italians that call it gravy. It's sauce. Oh. It's sauce. It's tomato sauce. Anyway, we talk to each other.
You know what? If it gets nice and thick, it could be gravy.
It could be.
Right.
But
I'm not mad.
Gravy goes on potatoes and turkey and whatever.
Gravy goes on turkey for sure.
Yeah. Doesn't go on pasta. Oh, can you pass the pasta gravy? Like put a word in front of it. And now just
tomato gravy is I can hear tomato gravy and not cringe. Pasta gravy sounds ridiculous. That's so gross. Yo, pass the pasta gravy. Pass the Polana all fruit. Pass the pasta gravy.
So what happens if you're at a Thanksgiving dinner with a bunch of Italians and there's pasta and turkey? What happens?
You're like, Aunt Louise, pass me the turkey sauce. What's in that? What's that red stuff? Is that the cranberry gravy? I like when a cranberry gravy comes in a can and you slice it. Pass me a slice of the cranberry gravy. How's that?
That's great. That's exactly how my family, Thanksgivings were. Nailed it.
Gaccione.
Yeah, but
why you no pronounce the E?
Gaccione. It's Gaccione. It's 4 syllables.
Yo, I didn't know that until like 10 years ago, like 5 years ago. I told you Gaccione like your entire adult life, and then one day I heard someone pronounce it Gaccione, and I looked at you and you're like,
it's true. It's so true. I just let.
I never had the heart to tell you. So I was like, Rich Gaccione. I was like, what? That's what I was pronounced. You're like,
Yep. That's it. I'm sure there's still people that think what you thought for 20 or 30 years of friendship.
Jesus Christ! I went decades without knowing how to pronounce your name. You never corrected me.
That's the person I am. I avoid confrontation.
What? Sorry.
I avoid confrontation, so I didn't want to
Yeah.
tell you.
Avoidance. You've never once mispronounced Rubenstein either.
And I can spell it without having to look up if the E or the I comes first. I always, flip that one around.
No, I can spell your name. Pretty short.
But you just can't pronounce it.
Can't pronounce it. How do you spell rich? No, sorry.
Yeah, but just it basically.
Like I'm laughing over here, and then like our whole comment section is like, "My father's dead. And I haven't seen him." I'm like, "Oh man, I'm not in the mood to be sad right now."
Yeah.
Sorry guys. Sorry listeners.
Well, my mom thinks time is going too fast. Basically, is what I was getting at before we talked about turkey sauce and tomato gravy.
Well, also, I mean, that's like a real phenomenon. Is time moves faster as you get older.
Yeah, I've definitely realized that now. Yeah,
because the percentage of your memory, it takes up a shorter percentage of your memory.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're a child, when you're 4 and you only remember the past year and a half, a year is 60% of your memory.
Right.
When you're 80 and you remember your whole life, thinking back to your whole life, it's like, oh, it's just a
little drip. Yeah.
Sliver.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The sliver. And then when it starts to go, like with dementia, like people with dementia, time stands still because
Right.
Everything's brand new and fresh, and there's just like everything's anew. There's a positive to dementia.
There's a positive. Yeah, time stands still.
There is none.
Yeah, I think avoiding easy fixes, or I don't want to call it a fix because nothing's like here, put a patch on it and it's fine. What I avoided for quite a while, and I knew that would make me feel better, is exercise. And it was only a matter of getting a couple things together and doing it. And it's been like a year. Like I used to work out very, very, very often when I lived in California. I was powerlifting 3 to 4 days a week, and that's all I did. What?
I remember when you looked so good. You were super thin, and I was like, you look like you're wearing a cancer bat shirt. I was like, you look like you got bit by a cancer bat. You looked so thin. We looked so good. Like you looked so good. I just can't not make fun of people.
Yeah.
That's just like my mechanism.
Yeah.
But like you looked so good. I remember seeing you and being like, dude, you look mint.
Mint, fresh out the pack.
And then you posted that photo the other day. That ex-youth photo.
Yeah. Yep.
I was like,
dude,
you look like
I was huge. I was huge. I was
man.
like, it's insane. I was like, holy crap. I did not ever see myself from afar. Like I never was able to analyze what I looked like when I was powerlifting. I never saw any difference. But in fact, the pants that I'm wearing now are super loose. And I remember when I wore these, they were like skin tight. Like every extremity, my entire body was just giant. I was just like so big. And that's what I liked. That's what I was going for. I mean, it's not aesthetically. I just wanted to be strong. I didn't really care how I looked. I didn't want like ripped abs or anything. I just wanted to be strong. But getting strong and then losing it and then wanting it back is kind of like one of these like dialogues I have in my head. I'm like, oh my God, I was so strong and I was and I was in this awesome routine and I was able to lift this much weight. And then that was another thing, this whole entire quarantine and like my whole entire life for like the past 2.5 years was like, you did it and you were doing it and people thought it was awesome and you thought it was awesome. And why can't you do it again? And then I'd have this internal battle and then I would avoid it. I'm like, well, because I don't have the weights and, well, there's not a good gym I can go to. Well, my back hurts. And it's like all of these excuses where I knew the answer was just to start doing it. And so I went to Home Depot and I bought a 70-pound sandbag.
Sandbag.
And I just,
Like, Kelly was like, "What?"
and it's a real thing. It's a real thing.
Sandbag.
It's $5.
I'm like, it's camo. It's
I bought so I bought a $5 sandbag at Home Depot, right? Those 70-pound yellow ones, right? And they're like clamped shut. They're like meant to like hold stuff up, you know what I mean? And it's like a real workout. And then my friend Joe, who I'm in a band with, he was like, "Yo, check this company out. They make like workout, like military grade sandbag bags." And so I bought one of those because it has all the handles and stuff. Because what I'm using now has no handles. It's literally, I'm just like, ooh,
like you just throw it on your shoulder like a beast.
Yeah, just throw it up and walk up and down the stairs a bunch. But it basically, all I had to do was like self-motivate. I had some conversations with my old trainer in Oakland. She's like amazing, was totally hyping me and just be like, I can't wait for you to do it again. You were awesome. Just blah, blah, blah. And she's just like, she got me to this point of where I was back then. And I knew how awesome I felt. And I just wanted to get back there. It's like, I almost sound like I'm talking about like an addiction, like something. Well yeah. and mentally and physically, it just made me feel so good when I was there. So it's like, it's a healthy addiction, right? All addictions don't have to be negative, but I got some stuff, and then I finally found a barbell that was within the price range I wanted to spend. So I bought a barbell, came in the mail yesterday, which is great. And all I need is some weights. And once I get some weights, I'm good. And I'm back. I'm like ready to go.
Can you throw a sandbag on either side of the bell?
I could, that would be interesting. I should try. Just throw a couple sandbags on it. Just carry it around.
It's got the handle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could. So I avoided things for so long that were super simple to solve. And it was like a mixture of being lazy and being down on myself and being like, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Who's going to care if I'm healthy? Who's going to care if I'm strong? It like is this woe is me like dialogue that I have in my head all the time. But it's
sorry to go back to this, but what about like buckets of water from your flooded basement? like
you see in the karate movies or like whatever, like they carry that's there's this thing called, we used to work out with, it's called an earthquake bar, and the ends, you put the weights on the ends, but it shakes like when you do bench pressing, but it like moves.
Oh, so you have to like,
it's all stability stuff.
The stability muscles.
Yeah. It's really, really cool. And it's super scary because it's, want to be
like, I'm gonna drop it.
I'm gonna drop this thing, but
that guy here in this gym.
But yeah, I mean, I avoided so many things for so many years of my life, not just like this last, a lot of the stuff we talk about is like COVID times, but a lot for you and I, we've dealt with a lot of things our entire lives and never addressed them until quite recently. And it's a lot to unpack, it's a lot to go back on, and a lot's happened in our adult lives that echo things that happened in our youth that are like clashing and like just like exploding and just like, how do I figure this out now? Like communicating my feelings or telling somebody I need help. I just avoid it,
Avoid it, man. Just avoid it.
The takeaway I want, the point I want to make about talking about like just the avoidance thing and stuff is just that if you feel at any step that you realize you're avoiding, if you're in a situation where there could be a tiny bit of improvement or help in that situation, if you can muster up the strength to reach out to somebody about that thing or to get help with that thing, whether it be little or huge, please do it, because I avoided things for I don't know, a year. I'm just gonna say like from like June to June, like of a whole year. It was like it was why it's just crazy. I avoided just dealing with any of my feelings. I just pushed, like I just kept pushing it down and pushing it down. And there was just layer upon layer upon layer, and everything was just smashed on top of each other. And if I wanted to get to something that was like the first layer, I already had like 5 or 6 new things on top of it, and there was no way I was getting through that stuff to get to the core of anything. And then that's when like the earthquake happens, everything loosens up on the inside, it all gets mixed together, and that's when I had to, you know, finally bring myself to the psychiatric hospital and be like, help me help myself. Don't avoid it.
That's a great. It's just. Man, that sucks, man. That's just an awful. Yeah, I mean, I've had 4 or 5. I don't think more than that, but like 4 or 5 times in my life where it was like, all right, time to talk to somebody, time to get a therapist. And then it would just be like 2 or 3 sessions, and I'd be like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Who's this lady now? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Who's the jerk off?
Yeah, not every person is going to be the right person to talk to the first time. You know, like if you feel like
For me, it's like there was no person. Like you couldn't.
right.
Like this, like me and you, yeah. But like you couldn't get a stranger to be like, sit down, tell me
Yeah.
and me be like,
all right,
you know, take it serious and be like, listen, doc, here's the thing, you know, I just don't understand and blah blah blah, and and you know,
Yeah.
like there's no way I'm doing that. There's no shot.
And what real quick though, because I know we're running close on time, but what is it that makes you say you can't make that connection with a stranger? Is it because they're a stranger? Is it because it's hokey? Is it because it's like?
Well, I told you I can talk to a stranger. Like I can talk to a stranger about anything.
Yeah,
just not
yeah,
me.
yeah.
You know, well, twofold. I think one, yeah, it's a little hokey to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where I'm just like that. You know, we've done it in person. We've done it on this, where it's just like, oh, and how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. And it's like, come on, man. Get out of town, man. The other thing is, you know, it goes back to just like, you know, the dark side controlling the show, where he's just like, it's like, don't waste this guy's time.
Yeah.
Like, what, you gonna talk about your mom? No one cares about your mom, dude. Like, shut up. Like, no one cares about your feelings about your mom. Like,
right.
Put it away. You know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, dad didn't love you. No one cares. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, well, my dad, yeah, no, it was fine. Yeah.
No, I feel like you might be avoiding a couple conversations there, Neil. Interesting.
You know what, Rich? You might be right.
I felt like the for what worked for me, with sitting in the room with a therapist and crying and being like this, that, and the other thing. When I went to this program, after all hell broke loose in my brain, I talked to the therapist, and the therapist was very much like notepad, sitting there looking at me and being like, yeah, okay, tell me more about, right? Like very spot on with what you were just saying. But what worked for me is group therapy, where the leader of the group is the professional, but says next to nothing the entire time, and everybody sits and talks about their experience and what they're going through. Because when you learn that there's other people in the world that are going through very similar things that you are, and they can offer insight on what they've done and the progress they've made, and this is what you and I are doing right now, I was so much more helped by group therapy and talking to other people and just being like, wait, what did you do then? Because I'm going through that now. How did you manage that? And they'd tell you, and you'd be like, this is a realistic insight on the issues I'm having, and this person, this real person who I don't know, so I have no attachment to them whatsoever, can give me advice and how they came out on the other side of it. And yeah, a professional therapist is good to talk to every week and check in and be like, oh, well, this, that, and the other, you haven't any, okay, let's talk about that, whatever. It's more down to earth, I think, when you have a group of friends or a friend or something like this, where you hear real people talking about real things and how they dealt with them that got them to a real point. You know what I mean? Because I think therapy is just like it's just like bouncing a ball up against a wall. It's like the same rhythmic thing every time.
I want to say I agree. I agree with you. I believe what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
but there is an element, and again, this is the hole that you're in, the darkness.
Yep.
Where when you hear those stories, like the people in the comment section, right? Like they talk about their problems and like what they're saying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I don't have anything. Like I shouldn't complain. Like
Yeah.
shut up, Neil. Like these people have problems. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like that's like the other side of that.
Yep.
Where like I've gone to like Al-Anon and stuff, or OE Anonymous or Gambling Anonymous. Like I've done those kinds of things. Where like I'll go to a meeting or two and I'm just like, I don't belong here either, man. Like these
Right.
people got real problems.
Yeah. You're like on the outskirts. You're like you're basically, you don't recognize or don't admit or whatever you want, whatever word you want to use, but you don't say that your problems are worth as much as theirs. So they don't need to be.
Yeah, like my gambling problem, like I nipped it in the bud. Like I got out of it before it got crazy.
Mhm.
But then like I don't know. But then I realized like, no, dude, you ran an illegal poker room for you. Like you were involved in some horrible, shady criminality. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't get out of it before it got carried
Yeah.
away. You got carried away.
Yeah.
It's just like carried away was a different carried away than other people's carried away.
Right.
I hear people like lose their homes and their families and stuff, and I'm like, whoa, like that's horrible. Like what I did was I was just on the outskirts. Like I was,
Right.
and then like and then like now looking back, I'm like, oh no. Oh no, I lived like
Oh, wait a
a
minute.
massive life for a really long time. Like what's this 10-year gap on your resume? Like just ignore it.
Nothing.
Any arrests? No.
Define arrest.
Does the FBI count? But yeah, so that's.
I hear you, and I mean that seems like a lot of the things I go through too. Is just like being like, oh well, what I'm going through it's not worth just talking about. So I'll just stay in my cave. I'll just stay in the hole.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to take it out of the hole. So let's end on that note.
That's really funny that I mean that's a fun realization that I just came to, because it's like I've always been like, I have an addictive personality, but I always control my addictions. Like I can always control my addictions. Like, yeah, you're 370 pounds. You really controlled your eating addiction, and you quit, a 6-figure a year job to pursue comedy. Yeah, that's the rational brain working. Like you
nailed it, Neil.
nailing it. You're nailing life, buddy. Way to get a hold of your addictions, you jerk. You dumb jerk. But I mean, I'm all right.
I'm all right. I'll keep it up. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for being all right.
Yeah. I thought you said I was all right, Spider.
I thought you said you was all right, Spider. I thought you was all right. Well,
all right. Thank you for doing this with me.
Yeah, of course. I enjoy it. Look forward to it every week.
Thank you to everybody in the comment section for taking part. It feels so much, dude. It feels so much better when we have comments.
Yeah.
Like, there was a couple of weeks where it was like no comments, and I was like,
Oh, well.
One pairs.
It's a different thing. It's a different thing. It's got to catch on.
Um,
Well, yeah.
Thank you for everyone's watching. Please like and share and do all the things. Subscribe on whatever platform. We really appreciate it. Check out Rich's bread company, Born from Pain,
Yeah.
and order some bread from a small business, and check out my Patreon. If you want to do something fun for Neil. All right. See all of you next Monday at 3 p.m.
Yeah. See you later. Thanks for being here. Bye.